Hello again. This tutorial is for a very easy V-stitch blanket. I'm using double knit yarn and a 6mm hook. I'm also using a 6.5mm for the chain, as the chain needs to be worked quite loosely. The yarn I'm using is a variegated yarn in nice bright colours. And we start off with a chain, and we need an odd number of chains. So start with the 6.5mm hook and a slip stitch onto the hook with the yarn. I find it easier as well to mark every 10 or 15 stitches with a stitch marker, just so that it saves the counting later on. So we'll start with the chains 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to pop a stitch marker into that chain. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and again pop a stitch marker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we carry on in this way until you've got the width that you want for your blanket. I think 79 is the recommended size, but obviously it depends on what width you want your blanket to be. So I'll meet you when you've got your desired length of chain. I've got the 79 stitches on the hook. This measures around about 30 inches, which is ideal for a baby blanket. And to just make sure that I've got 79, I can count in the tens, which is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, and then I've got the 9. I'm going to swap to the slightly smaller hook, which is a 6mm, and in the 4th chain from the hook I'm going to do a double crochet. There will always be a double the 3 chain on the first stitch to keep the sides nice and straight. So into that same chain, we've done the double, we do a chain 1 and another double into that same stitch. We then skip the next chain and work a double, a chain and a double into that next one. Skip a stitch, work a double, a chain and a double into the same stitch, and this is going to form the V's. Skip a stitch and work a double, chain 1 and a double into that stitch. We can remove the stitch markers as we go along. Skip a stitch and into the next stitch. Again, we're going to do the double, chain 1 and a double. Skip a chain and into the next chain. We do the double, the chain 1 and a double. The variegated yarn that I'm using looks to have quite a long amount of one colour, so I'll just show you there. So I'm going to use 2 balls of yarn at the same time, so that each row is going to have a different colour. I'll show you how to do that as we get to the other end. So we skip a chain and work the double, chain 1 and a double, skip a stitch, 1 double, chain 1 and a double into the same stitch, skip 1 stitch and again another V stitch into the next chain, skip 1 and work a double, a chain and a double into that next stitch. And we carry on exactly the same all the way along the row. Until we get across to the other side. The reason for the larger hook on the start chain is just so that the chain stays nice and loose. If you find that you can work a loose chain with the same size hook, then feel free to do so, but I do have a tendency to crochet a little bit tight. So if you want to carry on to the end of the chain, working the 2 doubles with a chain in between and then skip a stitch and so on all the way along. And here I've reached the end of the row, so in the very last chain I'm going to work a double crochet. I'm now going to change the colour of the row. And I'm going to join in a purple yarn. So I'm just going to slip the yarn through the loop to fasten off. Turn the work around. I'm going to start with a slip knot onto the hook and join into the top of that first stitch. I've not fastened off the previous colour because I'm going to carry that colour up the side. I will be putting a border onto this this blanket when it's complete, so that will cover up any of the excess yarn. So we start again with the 3 chain, which is going to count as the first double, and then we skip the next stitch, and into the 1 chain space we're going to work a double, chain 1 and a double, skip the next stitch and the following stitch, and straight into the 1 chain space we're going to work a double, chain 1 and a double, skip the next 2 stitches, and into the chain 1 space we work a double, a chain and a double, skipping 2 stitches, into the chain 1 space, again we work a double, chain 1 and a double, and we carry on in the same way all the way along the row, skipping the 2 stitches into the 1 chain space where we form the next V stitch. So each V is going to go into the V from the previous row. This stitch will work in a plain colour if you want to just do a complete blanket just in 1 single colour, but I do think it looks quite nice with a variegated yarn, or if you wanted to change the colour of each row or every 2 rows, to form a striped blanket. Oops, I've got a little bit of a knot. I like to start the yarn from the centre of the ball of wool, but sometimes we do end up with a bit of a tangled knot that we need to unravel. And just keep working the same all the way along until you reach the end, which is a double, chain one and a double into one stitch, skip 2 stitches and over into the chain one space where we form the next V. If you wanted a thicker blanket, you could go up to an Aran weight yarn and adjust the hook size accordingly, or even up to a chunky yarn, as long as you use the same hook as is recommended on the yarn band. And obviously if you want the same size of blanket, you would adjust the chain that you start with, but as long as you've got an odd number it will work out fine. An odd number of chains, that is. And we're almost at the end of this row. Just do excuse me, the final 2 V stitches into the V stitches from the previous row. And the last stitch will be a double into the top of the 3 chain from the previous row, and that just helps to keep the 2 sides nice and straight. To carry on the 3rd row in the same colour. So again we start with the 3 chain, flip the work over and skip the first stitch, and into this first V where we've got a 1 chain we're going to do another V stitch, which is 1 double, 1 chain, 1 double, over into the next V, and we do the same again, which is 1 double, 1 chain, 1 double, skip the 2 stitches and across into the 1 chain space, and work another V into that chain, and then it's just the same all the way along the row with a V-stitch into the V-stitch from the previous row, and we just carry on exactly the same until you've got the desired length of blanket that you want to use. I'll carry on to the end of this row and then I'll show you the border that I would use for this particular blanket. And now to show you a quite simple border that can be used on the V-stitch blanket, I'm going to use a contrasting colour of yarn just so that you can actually see the difference. So into the space between the V-stitch on the bottom edge we'll join with a slip knot and chain 1. The chain 1 is going to count as a single crochet. So skipping the 2 stitches of the V and going into the space, the chain space, we're going to work 3 double crochets all into that same space. Skip the 2 stitches of the V and into the next space we're going to do a single crochet. Into the next chain space we will work the 3 doubles and then skip the V into the next stitch. We're going to do a single crochet, and we carry on in the same way all the way along, working 3 doubles into the space and then into the next space a single. If you wanted a more pronounced shell you could do more of the doubles. This is only quite a shallow shell. I'll just show you what it looks like with 5. There's 3, 4 and 5 and then a single. So depending on how deep you want the border to be or how pronounced, you can do either 3 doubles or the 5. When you get over to the corner stitch you will have done the single into the chain space, and then you will do either 3 doubles, 1 chain, 3 doubles, or you would do the 5 double the single crochet. You do 3 doubles, 1 single, 3 doubles, or 5 doubles, a single crochet and 5 doubles to form the corner. I'll show you that when I get over to the other side. This one I've carried on with just the 3 double shell with the 1 single crochet in between, and we're now at the end of the row. So we've got the V-stitch from this row, and into this space I'm going to work the 3 doubles and 1 single and a further 3 doubles, which will form a neat corner. And then coming upwards we'll work into each of the spaces where the last stitch, which would be a double, or the first stitch of the next row, which would be the 3 chain. So we would work the single into that next space and the 3 or 5 doubles into the next one, and you'll carry on in that same way all the way around the blanket, so that you've got 6 doubles plus a single into the corners to create a nice corner there. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Please subscribe to my channel and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.